All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Before we get into all the stuff that's been going on, I would like to ask Captain Egan to give you an overview of what's going on in Deltona, narcotics-wise, as it relates to what's going on countywide as well.
All right. Good morning, Sheriff, and good morning, fellow residents. So our biggest threat is overdose deaths from fentanyl and heroin. We've had 92 overdoses in Deltona this year so far. We've had 39 deaths. The countywide trend is that overdose deaths are up, but overdoses are down. And although it's not scientific, we attribute that to the fentanyl that is killing people. And that's a drug, it's a synthetic opiate that is about 100 times to 200 times more potent than heroin. So a lot of these drug dealers are actually lacing all different kinds of drugs. They're lacing cocaine, they're lacing marijuana, they're lacing their heroin with the fentanyl to get a more powerful effect for their customers, and they're actually killing their customers. And a lot of people are unsuspectingly buying drugs, not knowing that the fentanyl's in it, so it's very dangerous. I want to give you all a quick snapshot of some of the great work that we're doing in Deltona. We've had 82 cases assigned this year for narcotics-related investigations. We've made 46 felony arrests, 13 misdemeanor arrests. We've executed 6 search warrants, seized 5 guns, and seized about $30,000 in drug profit. From the countywide perspective of narcotics activity, we're extremely busy as we are here in Deltona, but we worked 425 cases assigned. We've made 242 felony arrests, 38 misdemeanors, 72 search warrants, and 63 firearms seized. It's a pretty large number of firearms. And we've also seized $464,000 in drug proceeds.
And I think to show, the workload of 2021, 2022, you served like 33 search warrants in the first 6 months. And this year we're already over at the first 6 months, like 70 something. So we've almost doubled,
yes,
double our search warrants, which are not easy to obtain.
Yeah, we've had our foot to the pedal, just reacting and doing proactive investigations.
Can you talk about the joint investigation you did with the overdose death in Seminole County that ties back to your, and what would happen?
Yes, I can talk in very general terms because it is an active investigation, but we had a drug dealer from Deltona that sold some drugs to a client in Seminole County. That customer died from an overdose. Seminole County Sheriff's Office conducted a drug deal on that drug dealer, and through their investigation, they contacted us. We assisted them in executing a search warrant and seized a rather sizable amount of drugs. We got almost a half a kilo of cocaine in his house. We got a quarter kilo of fentanyl and heroin, and I think $55,000 in drug proceeds that he readily admitted. Like I said, it's an active investigation, but I can tell you that our detectives are doing a phenomenal job.
It was a huge quantity of drugs. I mean, it wasn't some little baggies. I mean, it was huge that we seized.
No, he told us that he had 40 grams of heroin, and he had a lot more than that.
And that's coming off. But where was the car stop with the liquid fentanyl? Where we got 50.
I do not.
Deltona. Car stop, which was a great stop. Got 50 grams of liquid fentanyl. The other day I saw an alert come out, and this is something we haven't seen here, and I don't think it's been a nationwide trend, but please somebody jump in if they've seen it. There's some of these idiots are lacing dollar bills with fentanyl and then leaving it somewhere for somebody to say, oh, there's a $5 bill, and bend down and pick it up, and the fentanyl transfers in and the person overdoses. There's an article in the New York Post of a young 28-year-old woman who, that was her fentanyl overdose. She saw a $5 bill, or I forget what it was. She was in a store. She bent down to pick it up. You got something on that? And that's how deadly and quickly it could happen. So this is, the fentanyl stuff is not really something to be played with at all. And listen, like you said, you got kids who think they're buying Adderall or whatever to party, and in reality, they're buying stuff that is either pure fentanyl or laced with fentanyl. And that was abundantly clear from my trip to Mexico, that these super labs are creating these pills down there. They have the press, they have everything, and then they're just bringing in quantities. I mean, we had another car stop, didn't we see? It was the search warrant. We seized all those pills. Yes. And then I think it was Putman seized 100,000 pills or something like that. So I mean, it's here. Anybody have any questions about narcotics before we go to the next? Carl, you want to hit us up with either Juvenile Assessment Center? Thank God we're up and running. We're looking about October 1.
We're on track to open the Juvenile Assessment Center. It's going to be in the old United Way building, which is 3747 West International Speedway. So it's, if you're coming from Deltona and you get off at I-4, it's going to be the first left before you get to Indian Lake Road, and we'll be in there. Our partners are going to be DJJ, Children's Home Society, Volusia County School Board, Halifax Behavior, and we are outsourcing for a partner that will help with mental health and substance abuse testing. DJJ statewide July 1st implemented a new program where all 67 sheriffs will help monitor kids on ankle monitors. What makes Volusia County different than the other counties? We've been doing this since 2013. So we've already been a partner with DJJ, so we will monitor kids on ankle monitors 24/7. And in the other areas, they will work out their own agreement.
And the good thing is they're expanding the program. So these kids that do crimes of violence, instead of being held for 21 days and cut loose, they can be held longer than 21 days. And if they do get cut loose after 21 days, they can be put on an ankle monitor, which is something we couldn't do previously under law.
Right.
So the program is expanding dramatically.
And then the other thing that we have, as everyone knows, we just had the 2 arrests with the 12 and 13-year-old with the guns. Currently, since 2022 of January, we have several kids with gun charges, and the average age is 14. So each month, DJJ puts out a report, and Volusia always has the highest number of guns.
In the circuit.
In the circuit. But here's the thing that's happening. They're being arrested in Volusia County, but they're coming from Orlando, Polk, Seminole, Lake, and even outside of the state. So they're coming into our county, committing the crime, being arrested, but they don't live here.
I think what you're going to see here, listen closely, you're going to see connectivity between the land and Deltona in a series of car breaks, probably pushing 35 or 40 this period, and all of the suspects are not from Deltona. And I think you'll see when you hear where the arrests we're making, you're going to be amazed at the number of people that are coming from Seminole and Orange and the other counties surrounding us. So, yes.
And I appreciate that when you make the report, that you make that known, because Deltona is getting really bad reputation, but it's not Deltona. It's like Carl said, they're coming to Deltona from someplace else. So
the people that we're arresting, we have warrants out for people. They're going to talk about it. They're going to get into it. Like I said, they're from Sanford. They're from Orange County. They're from Seminole County. They're not from here.
It's happening here, but our residents are very decent.
Deltona's a bedroom community. I mean, it's gonna have people traveling to commit crimes. So, unfortunately, being this large of a bedroom community, we can't deter it, but we sure as heck can do an excellent job of putting these people in jail. So.
Rush up. All right, Kyle.
All right.
It's your show.
Awesome.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I have a question about that.
We understand they are getting arrested, getting in jail. However, with that being said, I believe we have a continuing problem with being let out on low fines, right? Or what is the repeat offender rate for this? And I know, just before I ask you that, but I want it to be said.
They're going to tell you, when they'll say they arrested John Doe, who's been arrested 29 times for felonies. You're going to hear all that when it comes out, so you're going to see that, I don't want to use the term that I want to use, but you're very...
Oh, please do. We're family here.
I don't want to say it. But there's obviously you have some first-time arrestings in there, but a lot of them, just over and over and over again, you just hear the name, you know the name, you see, like I said, 29 felony arrests, 16 misdemeanor arrests, convictions. You're like, how is this person continuing to get out and do the same thing over and over again?
And that is my point, like what are we doing, what can our city do as far as continuing the conversation about legislation on that, because it's frustrating when I watch the rates, because I watch these rates and I watch them let out. Juveniles also released back into care of parents. There's no issue with the parents. There's nothing punitive that happens to the parents in those cases, right? And so I'm just putting that out there to the public that that's something that we need to be talking about also. It's not these people aren't getting arrested. They're not staying. They're not staying.
Right.
Just to clarify, juveniles do not have a bond, okay? The state controls how long juveniles stay locked up, and as the sheriff just stated, the law changed July 1st where they can get an extra 21 days, but they are not guaranteed that. So when a juvenile is arrested, that's why they're released, because they have no bond, because they can't pay a bond, so they don't put the onus on the parent to pay that. So that's why you see them saying they're released, because there are no bonds for juveniles.
You grab a juvenile, we go at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's a misdemeanor. He goes right back to the mother, and then a week later, he's shooting somebody. Well, Jesus Christ, yeah, you grabbed him with a misdemeanor, when he gun, he thought this was a joke, they took the gun off, and they sent me back home. So the next thing, we get another gun, and now we have a juvenile who shot somebody, or shot multiple people. So we operate under the 80-20 rule. 80% of the crime is committed by 20% of the individuals over and over and over again.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Captain McDaniel. I'm the district commander for Deltona, also the unincorporated areas of Osteen, Enterprise, and Mims. I want to do a quick segue from what Captain Egan said about the narcotics in Deltona and in the county in general. I'd love to introduce Charlie Schiff. Charlie Schiff, you stand up. All right. This is probably one of the most proactive units in the entire county. They have seized dozens and dozens of narcotics, firearms, made dozens of felony arrests, misdemeanor arrests in the last 6 months. In January, off a traffic stop, they seized 7 grams of heroin, MDMA, firearms. In June, they seized 6 grams of powdered fentanyl, 2 firearms from a convicted felon, and just last week, 53 grams of liquid fentanyl.
You guys want to introduce yourself? Let everybody know who you are.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me here. I'm Sergeant Patterson. And this is a portion of my shift.
I'm Sergeant Roman. This is Deputy Chris Slover, and this is Deputy Jonathan Edler. They're 2 of the 9 people that we have working in the city of Deltona. Our district is pretty good. We've got 2 great lieutenants, a great captain that lets us do what we need to do to get the job done for you guys every single day. These guys have pride in the work that they do. We give them the tools that they can use to be successful. We train a lot on our shift. It's one of the things that we take pride in, and it shows every single day. And we're here for you guys. We just want to do a good job.
You guys are class 1, aren't you?
No, sir.
Have you done class 1? Okay.
We have a few class ones that we
Yeah, I saw that. I just can't remember the name. It was a certain age, I don't remember names. But you're in that. How many class 1? Class 1 is the first class we graduated of our own recruits trained by us. How many do you have in your platoon?
We have 2.
You have 2?
We have the person who was the class leader. He finished first. Deputy Gorley, pretty great. And then we have Deputy Rogeliner, came over from DCF. So she's valuable when we're dealing with our children.
Good. Excellent. Good job. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. take us into our Deltona's traffic unit. For this COMPSTAT period, they made 7 felony arrests, 48 misdemeanor arrests. They handled 64 traffic crashes. They issued 427 citations, and they issued 83 warnings. So our Deltona traffic unit had just added an extra person or filled a vacancy in that spot after a 2-week motor school that was extremely difficult. So we're proud to have a new member on Deltona traffic unit. All right. I see a lot of familiar faces in here. Is there anybody that hasn't been to a COMPSTAT before? Okay. Welcome. So you're going to see a lot of numbers up here. I'm going to try to explain them the best I can. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to raise your hand. We will be happy to try to answer them. So the first slide that we have here is the previous 35 days COMPSTAT for the numbers. Our total burglaries, we had an 11% decrease. Our larcenies, we had a 12% increase, and that's just going from 26 to 29 to this 35-day period. We had a 50% increase in robberies, going from 6 to 9. We had an 18% increase in our ag assault and batteries. We had a 40% decrease in our sex bats, and we had a 7% increase in our total Part 1 crimes, going from 67 to 72 in the previous 35 days. That'll take us to our next slide. The first 6 months out of the year from January, or excuse me, 7 months of the year, we had an increase of our burglaries, 24% from 37 to 46. We had a 10% decrease in our larcenies. Our larceny car breaks were down 31% from 59 in 2021 to 41 this year. We had a 16% decrease in our robberies. We had a 22% increase in our ag assault and batteries. Our person shots were up 500%. We went from 1 in 2021 to 6 this year. However, all 6 have been cleared by arrests. We had a 64% increase in our sex bats, coming from 14 in 2021 to 23 in this year. We had a 1% increase in our total Part 1 crime, excuse me. That'll bring us into our clearance rates. Our clearance rates are how we clear calls or clear cases. We either clear them by arrest or we clear them by exception. Clearing by exception means we've identified a suspect. However, the victim did not want to prosecute, but we were able to clear the case exceptionally. That'll take us into, I'll touch on our auto thefts. Our clearance rate on auto thefts is 54%. So we cleared 54% of our auto theft cases. The national average in clearance rates is 13%. So those numbers are pretty awesome. Our total burglaries, clearance rate's 46%. Our larcenies are at 39%. Our total robbery clearance rate is 93%. Our total ag assault and batteries is 72%. And if you look just below that, the person shot, and that's at 100% clearance rate. Total sex bats at 61%. Our total Part 1 crimes clearance rate is 54%.
Captain, I don't mean to interrupt, but can I ask you, I'm looking back at the domestic abuse assault cases, okay? Could you just tell me, just based on field experience, again, what would you say, drugs or alcohol involved with these, domestic battery, domestic violence?
I would say, with not having the numbers in front of me, the numbers would probably be overwhelmingly high. These are mostly alcohol related or narcotics related.
May I ask about capturing that data as to, you know, the number of incidents is high, maybe not national, but for anywhere, you know what I mean, that's happening as far as domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And getting those people, following it and getting those people, is there a way that we can capture that data? We talked before about in-field reports, you know, having maybe a checkbox that says, okay, we suspect or know that there's drugs or alcohol involved. They're going to jail, obviously, but aftercare, when I'm talking about recidivism rate, right, and as far as capturing what's going on there, is it a mental problem, is it drug, alcohol related? Can you speak to that?
So our incident reports currently have a box that indicate if this crime was alcohol or drug related. It would just be sifting through all of those reports to determine.
The issue is when the assault occurs and the suspect's no longer there and doesn't get arrested for several days afterwards. That's where the issue comes into play, because you can't say for sure unless the victim tells you, yeah, he was drinking and then he kicked my butt. Deltona, just so you know, you're mirroring exactly what's going on in the county. There's a 9% increase in the first 6 months of 2022 as opposed to what it was in 2021. You had 279 cases last year, you had 303 this year. In the county, we had 690 in the first 6 months of the year. This year, we're at 755.
And is there any field experience on man versus female or female? I know that there's female on man battery and assault, you know, but I was involved with a case last week, if you remember, again, what I'm talking about, the domestic violence case, and just trying to figure out how as a community we move forward with that, like how we follow up what our aftercare is as a community. So getting that data is important to understanding what that looks like, and that's just for future reference. So sifting, I don't know if you do a data dump, but sifting through to find that out would be helpful to our community so that as a community we can address it also, right, through PSAs, through more open door resources for our community. So things like that would be helpful.
Historically, we've had the typical domestic violence, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, but recently we've seen an overwhelmingly amount of juveniles battering their parents, adult kids battering their parents. Director Kwan does an amazing job of following up with any juveniles that are associated with domestic violence calls or arrests.
And we appreciate that. We just need to understand, you know what I mean, as elected officials, what we do given these numbers, right? How we maintain profile for that for our community. So thank you for your ongoing help with that. Anything would be helpful so that we can be better as a city addressing those issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And our victim advocate unit could possibly answer all your questions.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's an assignment for them.
Yeah. So I'll touch one more thing on the slide at the very bottom, part 1, persons crimes. Our clearance rate is 74%. The national average is 29%. So I think that can take us into the crime. We'll start off with auto thefts. First auto theft, 614 Pepperwood Avenue in Deltona. The victim, the vehicle was stolen by a known suspect. The suspect refused to return the vehicle. Detectives obtained a warrant. The suspect is currently in Sanford area where they live. We are in contacts with Seminole County Sheriff's Office to try to pick up the suspect. The suspect is Tico Livingston. He is a male. He's 21 and 9 on felonies and 15 and 9 on misdemeanor arrests. So our next auto theft, 175 Railwood Avenue in Osteen. The victim observed his four-wheeler on 6/20. When he woke up the previous day, the four-wheeler was gone. He still has the keys to the four-wheeler. The four-wheeler was entered into FCIC, NCIC as stolen, and it's active to detectives.
It's an active investigation, Sheriff. We've so far done canvas. This is a remote area in Osteen. We're checking on the online marketplaces. We're checking ponds. So far, we don't have any leads, but like I said, it's an ongoing investigation.
Okay.
That brings us into our auto theft recovery. It was cleared by arrest. Our burglary attempt on El Camino was cleared by arrest. our business burglary, 1411 Howland Boulevard. This is the vape shop. Deputies responded to this location in reference to a business alarm. When they arrived on scene, they noticed the front door was found smashed in and forced open. Several vape pens and accessories appeared to be taken from the store. Our on-call crime scene responded and processed the scene, and it's active to detectives.
This was assigned to Detective Larson and McRae. We arrived on scene. We got video surveillance from the business. Observed 3 males in masks and gloves breaking through the front door. They were in the store for about 25 seconds, and they left with several vape pens and other paraphernalia. They were able to get a partial tag in our crime center. We was able to get the full tag of the vehicle, which was stolen out of Orange City about a year ago. Through license plate records, we saw that that vehicle had been in and out of Sanford and Delton, so we got with Sanford PD, gave them a ball. About 20 minutes later, they were behind the vehicle. They fled from Sanford Police Department, eventually stopped at a neighborhood. They arrested one individual juvenile in Sanford.
Your mic's not on sitting now.
Need songs.
Okay.
And like you said earlier, Sheriff, I mean, these kids are coming from Sanford. We believe his brother was with them, and another individual also from Sanford. This juvenile had previously been arrested for carrying a concealed weapon, trespassing and conveyance, burglary of conveyance. We're still investigating so that we can identify the other 3 individuals.
So, you get a burglary, stolen car, and the suspect that we grabbed is the juvenile out of Sanford.
Correct.
And we believe, based on it so far, that his brother and the other out of Sanford is involved, and then we believe that everybody involved out of Sanford is involved.
That is correct, Sheriff. That's what we believe so far.
So we locked up the one kid, Cameron, who's been charged with burglary, and Cameron didn't see a firearm, and being inside a stolen vehicle. That's just in the first 6 months of 2022.
Yeah, he was arrested in April for all those charges.
What's his brother like?
His brother's an adult. He's got the same criminal history. And we've seen an increase of these juvenile and adults coming from Sanford, committing crime, and then going back to Sanford.
All right.
All right, that'll take us into our next burglary residence on Gregory Drive that was cleared by arrest. Next burglary residence on Chandler Drive. The roommates of the victim entered her room without permission, stole $450 worth of property, and fled the scene. CID obtained an arrest warrant for both suspects. The suspects fled to Arkansas. Our crime suppression team last night were able to call the suspects, tell them that they just needed a witness statement for the burglary. They agreed. Local Arkansas police went to the house and arrested them both.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's good. Next burglary residence, Giovanni Street? Giovanni Street. That was cleared by arrest. Next burglary residence on Howland, also cleared by arrest. Burglary residence, 145 Mitnick Drive.
Go back to that one on Howland Boulevard. That's the one where the guy enters your bedroom and grabs her and covers her mouth.
Yeah, so this gentleman who, we'll just call him Corey. He was out on bond for doing something similar the year prior. So he enters the victim's residence, enters her bedroom. He grabs her by the hair, covers her mouth. He does flee. Deputies were able to identify him and arrest him. CID followed up on it.
So he was on probation for false imprisonment. He had done something similar, where he had gotten into a woman's vehicle and had taken her to several banks to try to get money from her. He actually lives not very far from this residence. He was riding along with his bicycle. He entered this woman's home through the unlocked front door, and when she started screaming, he grabbed her, covered her mouth. She was able to fight him off. He left. Deputies and detectives were able to get surveillance video from the area, and one of the deputies actually was able to identify him. We went to his residence, and we tried to arrest him. He fought with the deputies. He was eventually arrested and taken to jail.
His DNA is in the database, right?
Yeah, he's a convicted felon.
This guy's a sex.
He's
a
a,
rape, murder,
yeah, he's a convicted felon.
You may be asking yourself, why is this guy out of jail and not in prison? The crime he committed last year, the false imprisonment where he got in a lady's car and forced her to drive all over town, the victim was not helpful with the prosecution of the case, so they had to settle for probation. I think that with this new victim, hopefully he'll go to prison for quite some time.
Okay.
Burglary residence on Mitnick Drive. The victim reported between several hour time lapse, someone forced entry into the front door and stole approximately $13,000 worth of jewelry. A Bic lighter was left behind. Several latent prints were also collected, and it's active to detectives.
This is an active investigation. We did a canvass. There's no video surveillance anywhere. Nobody's seen anything. We've been checking pawns. It's very hard because jewelry is extremely hard to pinpoint. Like the captain said, we do have a piece of evidence left behind by the suspect. We're going to send that for process it for DNA.
Next burglary structure on Brickell Drive in Deltona. The reporting party reported the residence had been burglarized between April and July. The homeowner had recently passed away. Several items of jewelry, coins were taken from the home. There was no surveillance at the residence. It was processed for prints with negative results. It's active to detectives.
This will be likely in front of the sheriff. The reporting party is not a next of kin or the executor of the estate. The owner of the residence passed away during the time frame or after the time frame she's reporting the burglary occurring. So we don't know if he sold this or gave it to one of his family.
Okay.
We don't really have any larcenies of note. That will take us into our larceny car breaks.
Skip over that we're going to merge them with the connectivity from Deltona and the land and what's going on.
Okay, we'll skip over the larceny car breaks.
We'll go back and do that.
That brings us into our robberies. Our first 6 were cleared by arrest. The next one on Azora Drive, that was domestic violence. An affidavit was presented to the state attorney's office. It was denied. The suspect fled to California. The affidavit was filed. Next robbery, 1100 Pearl Tree Road in Deltona. The victim reported 2 known suspects, personally known to her, got into a physical fight with her son. They attempted to steal the vehicle, and prior to fleeing, a single gunshot was heard prior to them fleeing. It's active to detectives.
So these 2 individuals, boyfriend and girlfriend, are very uncooperative. They are refusing to give us sworn statements. They requested we terminate the investigation. We got with the state and we requested a warrant for the subject that fired the gun, and the state refused based on the fact that we don't have an actual victim since they are refusing to cooperate or present themselves as victims. So we have no choice but to close the exception.
Okay. Robbery, strong arm, cleared by arrest. Stalking, aggravated, cleared by arrest.
One thing, just I hate to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
When you talk about the robberies, I think you need to say what these robberies are.
Yes.
V1 and D1, victim and suspect are married together with a family unit. They are engaged in argument, push her against the wall, snatch yourself home, she's put before police. Robbery number 2, D1 and B1 are boyfriend and girlfriend who live together as a family unit. During the service, we revealed that B1 had forcibly taken from her and still had possession of it. He was arrested for DV and robbery. It's not like they're getting a lot of business.
Yeah, all but one one is domestic related. You know, they're not their traditional robberies that we think of, you know, somebody comes up, an unknown person comes up and robs you of your wallet. These are majority domestic related.
You know, D1 and B1 are blood relatives currently residing at a during the argument. D1 and B1 began to physically fight. D1 determined the primary aggressor during the argument. Another suspect entered the room and brandished the firearm. Multiple witnesses on scene. So when you hear all those guys only robberies, when, you know, of them all, only one was really what we consider a robbery, and the other one's a domestic, where the batterer takes something, normally a phone, from the person trying to call police, which results in a robbery.
Yeah. And even that one robbery, they were known suspects, and they don't want to cooperate. So, strong arm robbery, cleared by arrest. Stalking, aggravated, cleared by arrest. Our assault aggravated was cleared by arrest. All of our aggravated batteries were cleared by arrest. I will do one of note on 2689 East Dorchester Drive. District 4 units responded to the address reference to a shooting of an occupied dwelling. A preliminary investigation revealed a known suspect arrived on scene, exited their vehicle, and discharged multiple handgun rounds into the residence. The suspect immediately fled the scene, and detectives responded.
Yes, sir, Sheriff. This was assigned to Detective Barrett. It's important to say, again, this is not a random act. This was a known person that came back to basically boiled down to a disagreement between one of the residents at that house and then another resident who actually lived out of the land. And altercation continued back and forth. In this particular incident, it was a drive-by shooting. The suspect's vehicle arrived on scene. The shooter was identified by one of the victims, and it developed into an arrest warrant, which he was picked up not too long ago after that. So we do have an arrest out of this shooting. 18 shell casings were located on the scene, and the house was hit 12 times. Luckily, no injuries were reported, just the damage to the house. David Burgess was identified and arrested. He had not too much of a criminal history, only had one felony on his record. We have a second suspect with promising leads that we are continuously investigating in.
You guys spend a lot of time on this. There's a lot of technology used, tag readers,
Yes,
that kind of stuff.
the LPR has actually helped us identify the vehicle and confirm, because Sanford had a reporting of a robbery within hours of the shooting, and it matched the description of the vehicle that was given during our shooting, and we were able to tie them together with LPR, showing them coming into Volusia County, coming into Deltona specifically, and that's what gave us the biggest lead on who was behind the incident. And Stanford took the report, however, uncooperating victims over there, they were unable to pursue any charges. They actually had two incidences. One was an armed robbery where the guy had pulled a rifle out on it, and a second one, a couple days later, there was an actual shooting on the streets in front of the mall in Sanford. Again, the victims refused to pursue charges, and unfortunately, Sanford was able to push forward with anything. Fortunately, we have cooperating victims here who wanted to do something, so we can try to put a damper on this violence, this spat between these groups here that we pretty sure are gang related.
Right. And Sheriff, after the shooting, the suspect vehicle was actually painted black, or painted a different color by the owner, and the LPR was actually alerted us to it entering our county. Person not for going back in it, so because it was a completely different color from the day of the shooting.
Good stuff. Good stuff. What else you got?
All of our domestic aggravated batteries were cleared by arrest. Our domestics, we were 38 for 41, and 2 were filed, and 2 are still out looking for them.
LT, you want to discuss the homicide? Where we're at? What we're going to do? First homicide for you?
Yeah, so all right, good morning. So yeah, we had an incident on Sunday evening into Monday morning at 899 East Lehigh Drive involving a father-son. So to give you a little backstory, we have the family does reside here in Deltona, but there's a husband, wife, a son, 18-year-old son, and then he has 2 sisters as well. So the family was up in New York minus the 18-year-old son. The 18-year-old son was at the house by himself, has been here, we think, for several weeks, living by himself, while the family's on vacation in New York. So he's been displaying some behavior that is kind of out of his character, according to the family. He was tried, Daytona Beach Shores tried to stop him on, I think, July 3rd, and he fled from them. Okay, they couldn't identify who was driving the car, but obviously they got a tag and realized it came back to this address. And the car is actually registered to Dad. It was a 21 or 22 Honda Pilot, so it was a fairly new car. A couple days later, that car was involved in a crash on I-4 that was investigated by FHP. Don't have a lot of details on the crash itself, but the car was not drivable. So then the son now starts driving his dad's brand new F-150 pickup truck. So because of the behavior that's going on, the dad decided, I'm going to come home and try to talk some sense into my son. So he flies home on the night of the 10th, which would have been Sunday night. He gets into Orlando International Airport sometime 8, 9 o'clock, takes an Uber to the house. When he gets home, there's nobody at home. His truck is gone. He's trying to get a hold of his son. His son shows up, we believe, sometime between 10:30, 10:45. The father is on the phone with his wife up in New York. When the son gets home, she hears an altercation between the father and the son over the keys to the truck. There's obviously a heated discussion between the two of them. Then there's a loud noise that mom hears, and the phone goes dead. That is the last time that we hear from Dad at that point in time. Deputies get there to the scene. There's no vehicles. There's nothing there. We obviously realized something happened at the house. So we have detectives respond, have crime scene respond. There's evidence of a violent act that happened there. And we put out information to try to find this truck. We didn't know if they're both in it, if just the son's in it, but we knew the truck is important for us to find. Fast forward to the evening of the 11th, I guess late afternoon, that vehicle is spotted in Lake County.
Go back, at 11:44, we see
correct.
the area.
So detectives are, deputies are trying to approach the house initially because we got the call from mom. Saying something happened at the house and I don't know what's going on. So detectives are at the house, or deputies are at the house, and they see a white pickup truck drive down the road that was a fairly new F-150, a white F-150, who now we believe was the suspect vehicle. Okay. Well, when the driver sees the deputies and the deputy patrol cars, he then turns down a side street and leaves the residence. So we think the vehicle left while we got the call and then came back within 30 minutes or so and then saw us and then fled. The vehicle then fled maybe 20 minutes after that when it was spotted by District 6 Sergeant, and the vehicle fled into Sanford. It then fled again from Sanford PD, and then we never saw it again until later that day. So I want to say it was 4 o'clock or so in the afternoon on Monday. The Lake County detective or deputies, a canine deputy, spotted the vehicle. So we had the vehicle entered as a felony vehicle. Obviously, it was involved in a crime that we believed happened at that house. So he tried to stop the car. And from my understanding in that incident, the driver of the car, which was the 18-year-old son, put a gun out the window and shot at the deputy. So they pursued the car. The car ended up crashing into a building and still was firing at the deputies. And there was 2 deputies and 1 Mount Dora police officer that ended up shooting at this guy. He was hit several times, but he survived. I just got actually information this morning that he has been booked into the jail at Orange County, Orange County Jail, because he was flown to ORMC for his injuries, but he's been booked into the jail on their charges. So the family's been, I wouldn't say cooperative, I would say less than cooperative with us. We're trying to find Dad. Obviously, we know something happened between father and son. We know that there's evidence in that truck to suggest something happened that could be fatal. We don't know. We assume that's what happened, but we need the son to tell us what happened, and he's not. So At this time, we're moving forward best we can. I'm hoping we get a break in the case and somebody finds this guy. That's our hope. So
we're waiting on technology to come back to us.
Correct.
So we can pinpoint all of his movements and then go back.
Correct.
And yesterday, you guys pulled everything out. We had the airboat out. I don't know how many.
we had 2 airboats, we had drones, we had ground search by, I want to say, 30 people, Captain? There was a lot of people out there searching the area because we believe that he could have been dumped somewhere in this area. But again, maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was in another county. We don't know.
But the point of the matter is we put a ton of resources in
Yes.
that since we first got that first 911 call that came in from New York.
Yes.
So, and all that occurred within 20 minutes. She calls NYPD transfers down to us, and all within 20 minutes we're there.
Yeah, we can definitively say that the son got to the house just before 11 and was gone within 30 minutes because we were on scene, and then came back after we were there maybe 5 or 10 minutes. So whatever happened in short order, and we don't believe this was a premeditated act. We think this just happened between the two of them with an argument, and he's just been spiraling out of control. So.
And he was very well armed.
Yes,
He wasn't armed with like a 5-shot bomb. He was armed with a lot of stuff.
yes.
When you say the family is not cooperating, they just don't want to help you guys with the mission?
So they have retained an attorney and were advised by their attorney not to talk to us.
So he's probably laying in some body of water or in some wooded area, being eaten by bugs and everything else, and that's what that man deserved, because we're going to worry about Johnny Boy, who ain't ever getting out of jail for the shootout in Lake County. I mean, he's looking at decades in jail just for that.
Yeah, they said there's no way their son could have done anything like this, but yet, yeah. But, yeah.
But, you know, and I don't want to, I want to give the detectives and everybody in Deltona props for everything that they have done around the clock on this thing. The only reason he's not charged is you haven't found the body. It doesn't mean he's not going to be charged. We want to find the body. He's going to jail for killing his father. But it's just, it's mind-boggling to listen to these guys and all the work that they're doing, all the work that they're still doing, and then have the mother basically say, I didn't get any information.
Yeah.
So all this technology, you guys are keeping track of
Yeah, obviously
every move that we make.
it's an active investigation. I can't get into all the details, but we have a very strong case if we had to go to trial without a body. We obviously want to recover him, but we've got a pretty good case without it.
There's a lot of moving parts still going on right now. I mean, as we're speaking, there's a whole 20 detectives that are doing stuff out of the purview of the public to make sure we can see if we can find him. So, all right, thank you. All right, car breaks. You want to give us the number you had in this period? You had, so we had a,
Excuse me, my paper's a little
15 is the thing we had.
We had a significant increase in our car breaks, 15 car breaks, most of which were all part of trends. There's a couple here and there that were not. I think those, one of which was unfounded. But as the detectives will tell you, the trends are coming from out of the area, people traveling to our bedroom community, committing crimes like car breaks. Julian, would you like to go in depth on the trends?
Yeah, so that chart there, it does show 15, but some of them are from a previous COMPSTAT.
Right.
There's 2 others that we clear with arrest. One, like the captain said, it was unfounded. And Danielle, if you can put the other chart, I want to show you guys. Just 1 second, please.
No pressure, Daniel.
Nice.
All right, so on the right-hand side, you're going to see everything that I marked with a red mark. So car breaks that happened between June 11 and June 15. And then on the left-hand side, which is just above Deltona, right there, when I marked 8 cars broken into. This is the same group of people, 3 adults and 2 juveniles that came from Sanford, and during a 4-day period, they were there pillaging Deltona and the land. So they committed about, I would say, 16 plus up there 3. The 3 up there on the 25 zone, they're related to them as well. So almost 20 car breaks within a 5-day period. And we arrested 2 of them. 3 of them have active warrants. If you can just go to the other slide. All of them are from Sanford. And like the other case with the vape shop, they're all coming from Sanford and fleeing back to Sanford. We can't show you the face of the other 2 because they're juveniles, but they're all from Sanford. And they were all coming here. They had a base, a house on North Normandy. They were going out at night, doing car breaks, coming back there, sleeping for a few hours, going back to Sanford, coming back at night, doing car breaks again.
The North Normandy house, relative of theirs, friend of theirs?
They were friends. Parents were actually out of state, living in New York. 2 kids living there, 18 and 23-year-old brother and sister. Brother was bringing friends over. They were doing car breaks. He wasn't involved, but he knew what they were doing. We did a search warrant of the residence and were able to clear the burglaries, some of the burglaries in Deltona, and then 8 in the land. All of them were charged with about 13 counts of car breaks.
Cameron?
All these guys being from Sanford, they were from a lower income community. We sent a detective over when the 2 were arrested in Seminole. During the confessions that we were given, the explanation, aside from the fact that they had a convenient house to stay at on North Normandy, was that Volusia had several areas that basically would be prime for picking. So Deltona's area that was affected by the car breaks was a little more convenient because it wasn't too far from where they were staying. But into DeLand, they went into probably our highest or most expensive apartment complex on the south end of our district there and hit that complex. And they were breaking windows out in order to commit these car breaks.
Bars. Is this the group that was searching for the guns?
Nope, that's a second group that I can go into. So the low dot at 472 there near I-4, that is what specifically is related to Deltona's car burglaries. If you go up into the right corner of this map in 25 zone, those 3 blue dots there represent actually another 8 vehicle burglaries. Those were committed by 2 subjects that we know of now, 4 total that we have active warrants on for another 8 counts of burglary, 2 counts of grand theft firearm, and 1 count of attempted burglary to a residence. They came up from Orange County and Seminole County respectively. Their mission appeared to be to search for guns. They were able to get 2 firearms, 1 .40 caliber and 1 9mm. They were able to get a pellet gun used to shoot a bear, which is actually a pretty large pellet gun. And then when they stole the credit cards belonging to the victims, they went on to online websites to build their own Glock handguns and have them purchased and shipped to their house directly.
So think of how we're evolving here. We got these people breaking into cars and using your credit card to go onto a gun website, have guns shipped, they can then assemble and do what they need to do.
Can we talk again about people leaving their guns in their vehicles with no action afterwards? Has anybody talked about that?
Good luck.
Why? But can I ask why?
State legislature will not go anywhere near passing any kind of law that makes holders that gun owner responsible.
For leaving their gun in a car with access to criminals. Isn't that not
You're arguing with the wrong person. I'm just telling you,
So
legislature ain't touching it.
Yeah, and I'll give you.
Go to Tallahassee, by all means, go.
Okay, maybe that's bad.
So the majority of our car breaks like this are typically committed by people who are outside of our districts and county. And through some of the confessions that we've been getting, the purpose of that is we don't know who they are because we haven't dealt with them before, so it's easier to get away with it. A few months ago, we had other vape store burglaries, one of which was in Deltona as well, and they were also from Orange County, and that was why they came up here. They did know people that were up here, but they don't live here, and they're in the middle of the heart of Orange County, so it kind of makes it harder for us in their minds to solve it. And
the gun shop burglary in the Bowery last year was all Orange County.
Right.
Came up here in the middle of the night and burglarized the gun shop.
And it's been this way as long as I've been working here. It routinely affected over and over and over and over again from out-of-county residents. And I think it will continue just because of the proximity of where we are to I-4 and the fact that they think they're not going to get caught.
Well, that and the judicial circuit in Orange County doesn't hold these people accountable because, I mean, we're putting them in jail. Orange County's putting them in jail, but they're not staying there.
I mean, look at the Burger King, the kid that was killed in Orange County, Carla, because we had this job. The poor kid was killed because he got in an argument with a woman. He was working at the takeout window in Orange County. There was an argument. She goes home and gets her boyfriend. They lay in wait for this poor kid to get off of work, and then they beat the shit out of him. She hands her boyfriend the gun and says, "Shoot him, shoot him." She shoots and kills him. You would think that's first-degree murder. You would think that they laid in wait, but they downgrade everything, and then they moved into Deltona, and they're smoking weed with their 16-year-old kid from the back porch.
And they got released from the $25,000 bond.
So that's what we're dealing with in Orange County. We talk about why isn't anybody held in custody. Madam Mayor.
Yes, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
So listening to the statistics and everything, when you talk about two things, the LPRs, the license plate readers, I know that they're very, very effective. Do you feel that the city needs more arterial roads? Yes. That's question number one. And how can you go about bringing that forward?
I think as your community continues to grow, you know just as much as anyone else in this room, the developments are growing. Every street you turn on, there's new developments. I think that we will need an increase in technology through the city. How that looks, I don't know yet. I think once construction's done, I think we'll have a better idea of where our technology needs to go. But by far, this city has one of the best foundations for technology in Central Florida. And thanks to the commission and you for continued support for this technology, because you say it's very, very effective is an understatement. It is overwhelmingly effective and one of the most important tools that we have. So, and thank you.
Eric, you were commanding officer, right?
Yeah, so I'm actually over the crime center also, and we kind of head up the license plate recognition program. And we're actually in the middle of a pivot of technology. Some of the technology that we're currently using within the city has become outdated. The average lifespan of technology is about 2 years. You know, about every couple of years you need to buy a new phone, you need to buy a new computer. Well, that's where we are with the license plate recognition system. So we're actually looking at a cheaper format, flock safety cameras, which we've got 25 throughout the county. And thankfully Axon is paying for those cameras. But our plan is to implement those lower cost. We actually lease. We don't have to spend $30,000 on these license plate readers. We can spend $2,500 a year, lease them, and as the technology increases, it'll actually replace those with newer cameras. So that's what we're looking at. They're not completely portable, but we do have the ability to move them if they're not working in the areas that we need them to work. So there's a small charge, but it beats having to buy new equipment. So that's.
Long story short, we are surveying that to come to you with a business plan of, okay, we're going to need X number over X number of years to increase that. just made me lose my train of thought. Fuses, let them know what we're doing that's going to protect the schools in Deltona, actually all the schools, what's coming forward.
Right. So again, I can tell you the sheriff's a visionary and at the forefront of technology. I mean, it's such a force multiplier. You know, everybody's doing more with less, and we're doing it with technology. The sheriff purchased some new technology called FUSIS, and basically it's a single pane crime center that we can put in every patrol car. The crime center uses the technology. Danny, I don't know if you could pull it up, but hopefully I can give you a real quick demo, or Danny can.
Yeah, let them know how it's going to work in the school. God forbid if you have Deltona High.
Yeah, so if we had an active shooter or critical incident at a school, we would have, and I say we, all the patrol officers, detectives, command staff would have access to the school cameras immediately. That's one of the major reasons why we bought that. But we can also partner with local businesses. We actually tested the software. We did a proof of concept, make sure it works. It's amazing technology, and it basically feeds cameras, license plate readers, drone footage, helicopter footage. It's amazing technology, and we're actually in the process of rolling it out. We had our first training with our detectives this week.
Can I?
Yes, ma'am.
So, just so our residents feel safe, you guys do have cameras in every access point to the city of Deltona, am I correct?
Tag.
Yes, ma'am.
And you also have access to some of our cameras in the parks.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we're actually working with the city and your IT section. They need to bolster their infrastructure. Unfortunately, some of the cameras just, or some of the infrastructure in place, like the internet, just can't feed the video. So they're working on that solution, and we've been working closely.
Great, because I know that the park on Boulevard, I know you guys have access to that, which is, people have come to me and expressed how safe they feel now, knowing that, they're keeping an eye on that park. But thank you.
Yes. So the other thing that we're integrating, you can see on I-4 there, we've got a bunch of cameras. We've got FDOT cameras, access to live viewing FDOT cameras. I would love to show you the school. Unfortunately, the schools are in the process of upgrading their cameras. They've gone to a brand new system called Meraki, and we have access to that, and we're working on integrating that into this FUSIS system. The school that we actually tested, we checked it yesterday. I did a presentation at our crime center, and unfortunately the cameras weren't up, but I can show you Destination Daytona, Trails West subdivision, but we can actually put, it doesn't matter what kind of security system the business has or a resident has. We have the bridge, what this company calls a core. It's basically a hard drive that we connect to that device, that recording device. If it's a DVR at your house or at your convenience store, we can connect to that. And
so just think of where we're going with this. Any business in Deltona can sign up, and God forbid if there's a holdup at the McDonald's up here, while responding, can see exactly what's going on inside of that store. If there was a God forbid an active shooter in the cafeteria in Deltona, we wouldn't have to worry about it. We would all know based on the video. He's with white man on gray pants, white shirt. He's moving in northwesterly direction in the cafeteria toward whatever. So that saves so much time when you're responding.
So this is Trails West subdivision. So you can just click on the camera, it pulls up the video feed. You can blow it out, and the deputy can actually rewind several minutes. So if we do have a critical incident or an active actually get a suspect description out to law enforcement.
And we were getting complaints about it. Which van? This is the part we're getting complaints about, isn't it?
Which complaints? We've had several.
Give me one more cup of coffee and get that.
Does the owner of the camera get an alert if you come in and look at their cameras?
No, they don't. But they give us permission, so it's by their permission, not, we just don't take over their
Ring
camera
works the same
system.
way. Ring, some people can give us access, and they do. Other people, you contact them for that.
Or you pull that up right now, if they didn't get a notification, then you just look at their camera?
No, they did not. And they're all public view. There's, no expectation of privacy there.
But wait a minute, where's that camera mounted? That's not a private camera.
Sir?
That camera's not a private camera.
Yeah, it's the subdivision. It's the HOA.
The HOA paid for it and gave us access.
Yes. So a couple different things with the cameras, depending what kind of core. They have different levels. They have a core that's actually smaller than my phone that you can connect. It's basically for the homeowner or the small business owner if they want to give us, or an HOA that's got 2 roads and they've got 2 cameras. We can, put it on a $200 core, or they have a $5,000 core that's about as big as a briefcase, and that gives us artificial intelligence where we can do make, model, color searches.
Sir, I was able to get West Cryle cameras up, so this is a park in Deltona.
Okay.
So we can see those.
Flash pad at West Cryle. So, you can see the green on the bottom. You can actually scroll back. And so if a crime happened with a 5-minute time lapse, the deputies can scroll back 10 minutes and see what happened. I mean, it's a huge game changer. And I said, the sheriff paid for this technology. He paid for it for every police officer, every law enforcement officer and crime analyst in Volusia County. So all the municipalities have access to this new software. It's a game changer.
And I would just want to say that during some of the meetings that the Sheriff's Department sent a representative, a lot of the HOAs that participated in that meeting, I think you were in one of those meetings, when one of the HOAs is working on putting cameras on the, in front of their gate.
Yes.
Here in Deltona, and I think the other one is also inquiring about it, so that's awesome.
We countywide, Commissioner, I would probably tell you it's probably about 8, maybe a little more than that, subdivisions who have reached out to us around the county to say, hey, we want to be able, whether it's a tag reader system, whether it's a system like this, which is great for the HOA to do that.
And Sheriff, also during a couple of our meetings, we have discussed bringing in more cameras, giving the Sheriff's Office more support for that. It's one of my platforms talking about public safety. I've driven it home over a couple of meetings, so please know that we are discussing that. We want you to have access to protect your officers. It's important to us to support you guys, and this was brought up on the dais regarding more access to cameras in more places, parks, and other places that would be advantageous in our IT budget. So please know that we support your office and your officers and everything.
You guys always do, thank you.
Also, do you have any current policies on who has access to this and any kind of logging to determine if someone's using it for non-nefarious purposes?
We do, and we have complete auditing capability. Every button that you click, it records.
Do you know how many user accounts you currently have, or how many user accounts you expect to have for this? Is everyone going to get their own?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We don't share accounts, and we do have a policy to protect against
And you
that.
have to get permission from the owners to access their cameras.
Yes.
Also, the building had an out-of-center communication for my section road. They put in a new system called Carbine, and that's for the citizens. So I guess to explain it simply, let's say you're at a vehicle accident, and you call Central. They can send you a link. By your permission, with your cell phone, you click that link, it will give Central Communications your exact location, and you can video what's going on at the scene. If you're doing medical, you have
Your live stream, you're on I-4, there's a drunk driver going over the thing, you call 911, hey, there's a car going westbound on I-4, there's a description of it, they'll send you a link, so you just hold it up, and there's live streaming into us, the drunk driver, or reckless driver line.
So you send that, we will actually send it to the sergeant.
Hopefully your passenger's doing it.
Hopefully your passenger's doing it.
They could actually absorb what's going on at that time also. So the sheriff, like the captain said, we're all in the technology. It is a force multiplier, and it's changed the face of law enforcement.
So, talk about the camera access real quickly. Everybody has an indigenous sign-on to get into FCIC and NCIC. So you just can't get in and run. You have to sign in, and you know who's in there and how long. This is the same exact thing. You have a sign-in that's yours, that's audited, and only you can get in there. And we know what you got in there, how long you got in for, and what you're looking for. So.
Okay. Can I just make
Yes.
one comment? One of our HOAs, as you know, you were at the one meeting where they had actually it was a shooting and so on and so forth.
Yep.
And recently they contacted us again because they had a speeding car going through there, and they were as an HOA very fearful that it was related to that previous incident. And they are ones that were looking into tying into this. And you're always going to have some people that are in an HOA or in a subdivision that don't want that, but when you have the majority that do, and the level of fear that these people feel, and the response from the sheriff's department was amazing recently. They got someone out there, they identified the vehicle, and it turned out it was a situation where it was someone's son. The dad didn't know they were using the vehicle, racing through the street, and all of that was alleviated. And by doing this kind of technology, it really gives those people, the homeowners, a sense of calm when they've had an incident in their neighborhood. So thank you. And the last question I had, to piggyback on all of that, looking at a lot of your incidents, rentals versus owned homes. Do you see a disparity there when you talk about, crash houses, things like that, where people are just stashing, crashing, that kind of deal? Is there an issue, especially in Deltona, because we have a high percentage of rentals?
All the drugs seized this week, all that we talked about at the very beginning, rental property.
There we are.
That's all about this.
Well, we're looking as a city to do a rental ordinance to have that.
We reached out to our legal counsel to see what we can do with a plethora of drugs in that house, and it's a rental, and it's rented, it's a corporation. I think.
And
you want to work on that one? Sorry? Yes, sir. It was a corporation, I think. It owned the
A
house.
large rental company, the LLC one that you see popping up, doing multiple rentals.
So we're looking from our end, what can we, is this good enough to see or do whatever, so Peter's researching all of that and see what we can go. Yes, ma'am.
On a rental property or any property, when they seize a lot of drugs, in Nassau County up on Long Island, government seizes the house. You lose the house as a homeowner.
There's a whole big process of drug forfeiture. You just can't seize it. It's got to go through, and that's what we're trying to do. And it's not easy. It's not easy. One thing I do want to touch on is Deltona's getting a DARE officer. Carly, we talk about DARE.
DARE has changed, so DARE now goes through K-12. So the city of Deltona will have a DARE officer. We will be working with the schools to figure out what school is going to get the DARE. It's a 10-week course, so we can't touch every school because they have to fit it in. But we'll be working with the school board to figure out what school we're going to start at. And we're hopefully, I would like middle school because that's where we're seeing the vaping, the drug usage, the meth. So, we do have teenagers that are using meth, so.
Anybody have any questions? Have anything?
I do.
Yes, sir.
I got a couple, actually. So in schools, I'm a school teacher at Delton High School. Why can't we have metal detectors?
That's a question for the school. That's a school board question.
That's a school board.
Yep.
Okay.
That's a decision. So, just so you know, the way the law reads, the superintendent of schools is responsible for school security. Our job is to assist them in any way they ask us. But the bottom line, the person who makes those security decisions is the superintendent.
Okay. Second question. So when these guys get arrested and then they get let back out, is there anything in between, like some type of program where they can talk to them and let them know, or they just release them out?
They just release them out because DJJ does not have jurisdiction until the case is resolved, like sentencing. In juvenile, it's called disposition, but in adult case, it's called sentencing. So there's no pretrial release. Juveniles are totally separate than the adult system. So they are released to the parent. They are what we call in the intake status, waiting for disposition. And there's several steps in there. You know, the state attorney may look at the case and says, okay, they need to go to diversion, or we're not going to file charges. Then it just goes away. So with us opening the JAP, we're trying to close that gap, at least to address mental health and substance abuse. We can't do it all. And again, we cannot make the parents do it. We can recommend that your child needs these services, but they can easily tell us, no, we're not doing it, and we have no recourse.
Every kid that we come in contact with, hopefully on October 1st, whether they still any bar, they come point robbery, broken into 20 cars, is going to get that assessment as soon as they come in. And again, like Carl said, parents don't want to follow through. And the beauty of the assessment center is you don't have to wait 9 months to get an appointment to get in. This will be done for you immediately. All you do is follow up.
And then the last question is, what is the age range with the robberies and the larcenies?
They're starting as young as 10.
Okay.
I don't know, did you see the case in Philadelphia where a 10-year-old and 12-year-old beat a 7 or something like that? You know, with the cracker pump?
And I think he got charged as an adult.
We just had the kids down in
Oak Hill area.
They were 12. They were both 12. Shooting again. One being passing by and just shooting.
Thank you. That's all I have.
We will tell you, overall juvenile crime, even nationwide, is down, but violent juvenile crime is up like 200%. That's what we're all struggling with. Me and Carl were just on a conference call with about 6 U.S. attorneys from around the country. New York, Western New York was on there as well. And a couple of police chiefs and sheriffs, and everybody were telling the same horror stories of 12, 13, 14-year-old shooters, carjackers. So, well, I hope we were informative and get to see what's going on, get a nice picture of what's going on in the community and the hard work that these men and women are doing. And the commissioners and the mayors are here. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to serve this community with the folks we have here. You're passionate, you care, and you want to give us the resources that we need to do our jobs. So, thank you. Thank you all. Yes, sorry. Go ahead.
2 questions. One, with the recent report with Smart Growth America with 2 of our Volusia County roads being the most dangerous, is there more officers will be over there?
Good question. I think that when you read that report, it really reflects on design more so than anything else. I mean, I can tell you from being in Deltona that a lot of people get ran down on dark roads. There's no light, and they're not walking on the sidewalk, they're walking on the side of the road.
And then I'm curious, with the case of the 3 runaway juveniles in Ormond Beach, what has happened with the family? Because I know there's been reports that some of the fathers have been arrested.
That's a Flagler County.
Okay, that's a Flagler County. Okay.
We can get you the Flagler Sheriff's number. Yes, ma'am.
When are we going to have my neck of the woods, Glenwood, DeLand, and whatnot, a COMPSTAT meeting?
Who's going to come?
Oh, I can make a phone call. You know I can fill some place.
All right, well, we will do one up there for you. Just so you know, this one is tailored for Deltona.
Correct.
And then I tailor one for the Barry. Whenever I do one to talk about the east side of the county or the land, because what I get is, how come you're not telling us what the land PD's doing?
Because it's not Volusia County PD.
Right, and that's what I get. So when we go down to the southeastern part of the county, I get, well, how come you're not telling us what the submersible? What do you think? I live in Edgewater. Why are you telling me what the county's doing? Well, that's the rub. And if you want us to do one specifically for Glenwood, that good-looking man sitting right behind you in the green uniform is your captain. We can tailor-make something for you. Just tell us what you would like to do.
I have a comment, Sheriff. So, and I spoke to our former captain, here in Delton, about it. The practice, the rehearsal that the Sheriff's Department did at Deltona Middle School. I think was awesome. And I was telling him that a few years back, and you probably were part of the police department in Daytona Beach, there was a mock of the shooting done there by the plaza on Daytona Beach. And our youth organization that we ran was part of it. Would you consider doing something that you would do under with high school students?
We can. Right now, we are in the process, so you know, we are at Champion Elementary the last 2 mornings with all the people that are working the shift changes to do that. We're also doing
We're in Deltona. We were in Deltona all last week. So,
as school's out in the summer, we're not using the kids as much, but we have, this has been going on all summer long, where we're going to different schools in different parts of the county training. So last week was Deltona, this week we're doing Champions Elementary. So it's the whole organization goes through the training.
Yeah, the one they did in Daytona Beach was awesome. They had the makeup people.
Yeah, that is extremely labor intensive and really takes that, and you can't do it all the time. What we're doing now is more cost effective. They're out there, the media, if you watch News 13 or who was out yesterday, the media's been covering every one of them, so you get to see actually what's being done. And I'm extremely comfortable with what we're doing. It is really good stuff. I hear what you're saying. That's a lot of work to do one school when I can cover a lot of schools with the way we're doing it now. And I don't have anybody here to train to get into what we're doing. Yes.
So one last question for the homicide detective. Is for this search for this father, is it just law enforcement or can volunteers volunteer?
Right now, we want law enforcement just because of evidence collection.
Okay.
If we get the public out there and they trample our evidence that could be used, that would be an issue. But
and we're confident when what we're doing comes back, we're going to have a really good idea where it is.
I just have one comment.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank you for your post about that. You guys will actually get the job done if a school shooting happens. And the reason why I'm saying it is because if you knew the 1 hour footage of the camera has been released.
Yeah, it's horrible. And just to let you know, in this room right now, Captain Israel runs the SWAT team. The assistant commander is here over the SWAT team. This guy was on the SWAT. We have a lot
of that you saying the statement that you will get the job done, it strengthens my positivity that you guys, I know you guys will do it, unlike what they did with running away.
Well, standing around on their phone. I'm with you. We have a lot of patrol deputies assigned to Deltona that are also SWAT guys that have we all have the equipment to go in by ourselves. But the SWAT guys have that extra level of equipment and that extra level of training. Captain Israel, we want to jump in there real quick and talk about it.
As far as the active shooter stuff, we train on that constantly. And we always look for new technology and new opportunities. In fact, yesterday and 2-3 weeks ago, the old Deltona Middle School was one of the locations that we trained to utilize some of our shooters. When we have calls like that, we incorporate DOD, which is our bomb team. They help us with explosive breaching and getting into places that we may have difficulty otherwise getting into. So we do this training multiple times year round. And a lot of our training staff are on the team. So as the sheriff mentioned, our training staff are out here teaching deputies, detectives, giving them actual practical application training for an incident like this happens.
Yeah. And the beauty of the way we do it is one person has the tools and the equipment to neutralize, as opposed to having to wait for 15 or 20 people to come in. That one person can move in there and do what they can do.
And I wasn't saying that like as a disrespect. No. I respect everybody that works here.
I thought it was a great question.
Yeah, because I respect everybody that works here.
We train, I'm over training also. We train single deputy response up to every officer.
Like I said, it's not no disrespect.
So we don't stand.
I respect how you guys work.
It's a great question. It's a great question. I think that's why we're expanding on it to tell you all the stuff that we have. I think your budget is right on target. Because I think anybody who watches that video, that hour-long video, it's got to make you sick of somebody and say, what are you doing running away with all that heavy armor?
And we reinforce our deputies the situation that we want to do and how we should deal with that situation.
Listen, if you ever want to feel safe,
animal. It was pretty cool. Well, thank you all